Okay, what if I told you there's a soccer betting strategy out there with a nearly perfect success rate? Well, our source material lays out exactly that, a formula that hones in on a market that honestly, most people just walk right past. So let's break down what's being called the 5-league formula.
A 98% win rate. I know what you're thinking. That sounds, well, it sounds pretty much impossible, right? But according to the source material, if you follow this formula exactly as it's laid out, it's actually achievable. So the big question is, how on earth does it supposedly work? Let's get into it.
So, the whole strategy revolves around the over 1.5 goals market. Now, usually, the odds you find here are so low they're just not worth your time. But this formula, it teaches you to ignore all those games. It's specifically designed to sniff out the hidden value bets where the odds are much, much higher. We're talking between 1.25 and 1.30. The whole system is built on knowing exactly where to look for them.
Right, so where are these hidden gems? The source material points us to 5 very specific leagues, and it actually calls them gold mines for these high-value bets. These are leagues where, for one reason or another, the odds just don't seem to line up with the reality of how many goals actually get scored.
First up, the Turkish League, which is described as a total goal-scoring machine. But the secret here is a little counterintuitive. You have to avoid the giant clubs. You know, their games are always expected to be high-scoring, so the value just isn't there. But get this, the real power stat. Even in games that are 0-0 at halftime, the source claims there's an 80% chance you'll still see at least 2 goals in that second half.
Wow. Next, we're heading to Spain's La Liga. Now, here the trick is to focus on the mid-table and bottom-tier teams. See, their games often end with 2 or 3 goals, which is kind of a statistical no-man's land. The source claims this actually confuses bookmakers, who then end up setting the over 1.5 odds way higher than they probably should be.
Okay, our third league is the Netherlands Eredivisie, and this one is just famous for high-scoring games. But again, the value isn't with the big 3. The formula points us straight to the mid-table matchups. And here's a super simple check. Have both teams been scoring and letting in goals in their last 3 games? If the answer is yes, that's your green light.
And rounding out our 5 are what the source calls the high-odds hunters. First, in the French league, the odds on goals are often some of the highest you can find, and apparently the head-to-head history between teams is an unusually solid predictor there. Then you've got the Saudi Pro League, where the real money is found by completely ignoring the top 4 teams. It turns out the games between all the other clubs are often packed with goals, with odds that just don't reflect it.
So you've gone out and you've found some promising games in these 5 leagues. Now what? Well, the source material gives a very specific blueprint for building a single betting ticket that targets that sweet spot of 3 to 5 total odds.
Listen up, because the ticket structure is very, very specific. You start by picking 2 games from the Turkish League. Then, you add 1 or 2 games from La Liga. And you finish it off, you complete the ticket with 1 game from the Eredivisie. According to the source, this exact combination is the key to building a high-probability bet.
But hey, this isn't about blind luck or just throwing darts at a board. The source material is crystal clear on this. It's a formula, not a guess. And that means, yeah, there's a little bit of homework you've got to do to make it work.
The research really boils down to a simple 3-step checklist. First, you check the recent form. How have the teams been playing in just their last 3 matches? Second, you look at the head-to-head history between those 2 clubs. And finally, you analyze their overall season stats. These are the mandatory steps, you can't skip them, for applying the formula correctly. So when you combine the right leagues, and you use that specific ticket-building formula, and you actually do the essential research, you end up right back at that initial incredibly powerful claim. And there it is again, 98%. This is the winning possibility that the source material claims is totally achievable. It's not just about picking games. It's about following a disciplined system from the very beginning to the very end.
You know, one of the sources really sums up the whole philosophy perfectly. It says, you're not just guessing. You're using a structured, winning formula. It's really all about shifting from random chance to a methodical, repeatable process.
So whether you decide to use this specific strategy or not, it really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on. In a world that's so often driven by luck and gut feelings, is a disciplined, research-backed formula the real key to actually beating the odds?